Onnested, Alquist, Ashburn, Calderon, Cedillo, Cogdill, Corbett, Correa, Cox, Denham, DeSaulnier, Ducheney, Dutton, Flores, Hancock, Harmon, Hollingsworth, Huff, Kehoe, Leno, Liu, Lowenthal, Maldonado, Negrete McLeod, Oropesa, Padilla, Pavley, Price, Romero, Runner, Semidian, Steinberg, Strickland, Walters, Wiggins, Wolk, Wright, Weiland, Yee. Madam President, we are lacking a quorum.
Members, we have not yet achieved a quorum. Sergeants, please lock the doors, call in the absent members so that we may begin this afternoon's session. Members, we do have a quorum. Would the members and our guests beyond the rail and in the gallery please rise? We will be led in prayer this afternoon by our guest chaplain, Elder Ricky L. Currington, after which please remain standing. We will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Senator Price.
Let us pray. God, we thank you today for the privilege to be standing here to offer this prayer on behalf of this Senate Forum. We ask for your leading and guidance in the direction and the decision-making process for today's forum. And as we celebrate this Black History Month, we thank you for bringing us to this place of love, peace, and joy. And God, continue to help us to share this love, this peace, and joy throughout our land and country. This is our prayer. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Messages from the Assembly. Mr. Secretary, please read. There are 2 messages.
Madam President, I am directed to inform your honorable body that the Assembly amended and on this day passed, as amended, Senate Bill 205 and respectfully request your honorable body to concur in said amendments. Madam President, I am directed to inform your honorable body that the Assembly on this day concurred in Senate amendments to Assembly Bill 1585.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments adopted. Under motions, resolutions, and notices, Senator Price, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, Madam President, seek recognition for SCR 71.
And this is without reference to file.
Correct.
SCR 71. Secretary, please read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 71 by Senator Price relative to Black History Month.
Senator Price.
Thank you, Madam President. Black History Month is an important time to celebrate and commemorate the extraordinary accomplishments of African Americans whose courage, talent, and wisdom have changed the social and political landscape of our great country and our great state. What is known as Black History Month originated in 1926 and was founded by the noted African American historian and scholar Carter G. Woodson. The month of February was selected in deference to Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln, who were both born in that month. The 1920s was a decade of the new Negro, a name given to a post-World War I generation because of its rising racial pride and consciousness. From the beginning, Black History Week was met with overwhelming support as the week was celebrated across the country in schools and other public gatherings. Throughout our nation's history, African Americans have contributed significantly to the history and development of our state and nation. Did you know, for example, that the traffic signal was first patented by an African American, Garrett Morgan? C.B. Brooks invented the street sweeper in 1896. Charles Drew, a medical doctor and surgeon, started the idea of a blood bank and invented the method for separating and storing blood plasma. The potato chip was invented in 1853 by an African American named George Crumb. The pencil sharpener was invented in 1897 by J.L. Love. And Elijah McCoy, a mechanic and engineer and inventor who was responsible for a number of industrial inventions, including the steam lubricator. The expression, the real McCoy, derives from his namesake and inventions. Black History Month is an opportunity to reflect on the extraordinary contributions of African Americans. The willing spirit of African Americans throughout this nation's history has helped to fuel the fight for quality education, access to good jobs, and equality in the workplace. This month, Americans throughout this country will celebrate Black History Month. It is my hope that these lessons will help to bond our communities and remind us that we are all part of the history of this great nation.
Any discussion or debate? Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I rise in support of this resolution, too, and want to thank Senator Price for encouraging me to get up and speak.
won't get into the details of the exchange, but it caused me to reflect on, well, not an African member of the legislature, but the spirit of celebrating Black History Month is really a recognition that the Black experience is our shared experience, our complete experience in this state and in this nation. Did a little homework on my district and came to learn that the first African-American postmaster in the nation was appointed by President Kennedy in 1963 to serve as postmaster in Pacoima, where Senator Wright knows a few families. So just one small example of how I bet if we each did homework of our own district communities in our own districts, we'd find a little piece of history. And that, I believe, is the point. Black history is ingrained in American history and certainly California history. One other element that we're proud to celebrate in Pacoima is in the era of redlining and real estate residential segregation. There weren't too many places in Los Angeles, certainly the San Fernando Valley, where African Americans were allowed to buy homes. But one of those were the Joe Louis Tract homes in Pacoima, which became home to a significant workforce base for in the post-war for people going to work at General Motors and Price Pfister and Lockheed and Goodyear, etc. So I want to rise to share a little bit of that history about my district in the spirit of this resolution, in the spirit of this month, and thank Senator Price for asking me to do so.
Senator Wright.
I, too, rise to thank Senator Price for the resolution. I often like to remind people that February wasn't chosen because it was the shortest month. That has kind of been one of those jokes that people make. In 1926, Carter G. Woodson initiated what was then Black History Week. And the reason that he chose the second week of February was because then the two greatest persons to Black history, in his belief, were Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, who were both born in the month of February. Much later, we now know that Miss Rosa Parks was also born in the month of February, and it was much later, it was actually in the 50s, that Black History Week expanded to Black History Month. But I think Senator Price raised some of the things that a lot of people don't know about African American history that are often overlooked. Many people don't know, for example, that in the Middle Passage, which was described as the ship would leave Europe and go to Africa, where it would take trinkets, it would then pick up slaves and go to the United States, and it would come back from the United States with agricultural goods. In the Middle Passage, some 11 million people were tossed overboard. Oftentimes they would get sick because they were packed tight into a ship, so that only the strongest of those slaves could survive being tight-packed for that long a voyage. And some estimates are that sharks used to follow slave ships because they knew that on a regular basis people were simply going to be tossed overboard. There are other issues that I think become important, but one of the things I hope we realize is that Black History Month also becomes a time to reflect on things that have happened to other people, whether it's Armenian genocide with the Turks, whether or not it's the internment of Japanese right here in the United States, whether or not we look at what took place in this body, as I've mentioned before, where we subsidized the extermination of Indians because we wanted to get them. This is a time to remember injustices that were done to a number of people and to reflect on what Dr. King once said, that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice and freedom everywhere. So I'm proud to stand and support the resolution. I'm glad to just raise that because people often don't know, for example, the scientific contributions of individuals. And I could go on. There were a number of other things that were like that. But I hope as well we will also look at whether or not it's Haitians right now. The diaspora of people is still suffering in the world, and that we would use this day as a day to look and say that where anybody is suffering, that this becomes a time to recognize that and do whatever it is that we can to help them. So I'm proud to support the resolution. I would ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Any others to rise in support? Senator Price, you may close.
You know, Black American history is American history, and it's a story that we all can relate to, that we all can understand. We should be doing all we can to celebrate all of our history, not just during 1 month, but all the year round. And so I join my colleagues in support of this resolution to commemorate Black History Month here on our Senate floor and in our state, and we look forward to your support. Thank you.
Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested, Alquist, I. Ashburn, Calderon, Cedillo, I. Cogdill, I. Corbett, I. Correa, Cox, I. Denham, DeSaulnier, I. Ducheney, I. Dutton, I. Flores, Hancock, I. Harmon, Hollingsworth, Huff, I. Kehoe, I. Leno, I. Liu, I. Lowenthal, I. Maldonado, I. Negrete McLeod, I. Oropesa, I. Padilla, I. Pavley, I. Price, I. Romero,
Aye.
I. Runner, I. Semidian, Steinberg, I. Strickland, I. Walters, I. Wiggins, I. Wolk, I. Wright, I. Wyland, I. Yee. Yee, I. Onnested, I. Correa, I. Calderon, I.
Ayes 33, noes 0. The resolution is adopted. Senator Padilla recognized at Senator Steinberg's desk. For what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Madam President. Request to take up without reference to file SR 33.
SCR 33, Secretary. This is item 15 on file. Secretary, please read.
Senate Resolution 33 by Senator Padilla, enacting to National Engineers Week.
Thank you very much, Madam President. So it's Black History Month, but it's National Engineers Week, the week of February 14th through 20th. National Engineering Week aims to increase the understanding and appreciation of engineers and other technology careers, as well as it aims to promote literacy in math and sciences. If we stop and think about the role engineers play in our society, couldn't live without them. Engineers have helped meet the major technological challenges of our time and really throughout history. Engineers do everything from repairing infrastructure after natural disasters to building the information superhighway that's taking us into the future. Engineers design everything from the smallest microchips and nanochips you can imagine to the world's tallest buildings and everything in between. Just earlier this month, President Obama launched his Educate to Innovate campaign, which is intended to motivate and inspire young people across the country to excel in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Here in California, we have tremendous leadership in these efforts as well, such as the California Engineering Education Council, doing much the same, promoting literacy, promoting career paths. That is what we celebrate during National Engineers Week. I'd ask for your aye votes on this resolution and would be a privilege to give a presentation after the vote.
Okay. Is there any discussion or debate? Is there any objection to using the previous unanimous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 33, noes 0. The resolution is adopted.
Thank you, Madam President. And with me today to receive the resolution memorializing the vote that just took place, please welcome Shabir Ahmed, President of the Professional Engineers in California Government, Tom Blackburn, President of the American Council of Engineering Companies here in California, as well as Chuck Spinks from the American Society of Civil Engineers. Please give them a round of applause.
Welcome to the California State Senate. Members, under introductions and first reading of bills, bills are deemed read. Consideration of the daily file, second reading file. There is one item. Secretary will read.
Assembly Bill 347 with amendments.
Senator Price, do you have a second item you wish to take up at this time?
I do. I'm going to defer to my colleague, Senator Wright.
Senator Wright, what is the item?
It's a presentation of a resolution, Madam Chair. Madam President, pardon me.
Please proceed.
Hildreth, I always call him Hal Walker. I guess I've known this gentleman for some 20 years and never knew what his real first name was. But Hildreth, I'm going to have to remember that now. Hildreth Walker started off himself as an engineer and founded an Amen program that for years has been based in Inglewood, California. What Amen does is it takes young men primarily and gets them interested in science and technology studies. They've got a mock-up of the space lab on La Brea right in Inglewood, and to watch young people go in and experiment with some of those things. They've been working at STEM before it was called that, to just orient young people to become interested in science and math and technology studies. It's important for young people to get a real feel of what that was like. I remember growing up, one of the great experiences that you'd have in life was to go to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, or the California Science Center, which is one of the reasons that I've been involved with it for so long. Because when people are able to see and touch something, it gives them a whole different perspective of that. So for Dr. Walker and his wife Shirley, for all the years that they have been working, Betty, I called the next person is the other person's wife, but I'm going to get them mixed up. But you'll hear from Shirley in a minute. But for Hal and Betty, for the work that they've done in this community, it's an honor to be able to recognize them for that great work and just say thank you and keep doing what you do. So on behalf of the legislature, it's my honor to recognize Hildreth Walker and his wife Betty for the great work that they do training young people in science and technology.
Congratulations to you. And joining in the festivities is Assemblyman Bradford. Welcome to the Senate. Senator Price, you have one more item?
Yes, Madam President. Bernard and Shirley Kinsey met while in college at Florida A&M. Last week, February 11th, they celebrated their 43rd anniversary. The Kinseys have been collecting for more than 35 years and started collecting as a way to savor and share their travels. But soon their art became a repository for African American intellectuals, historic, and artistic work. This year, the Legislative Black Caucus is featuring items from the Kinsey collection at the California Museum. In fact, the opening reception is this evening. This is an extraordinary collection of art, historical documents, memorabilia that all document the trials and tribulations of the African American experience in this country before the Mayflower and certainly since. The Kinsey collection has been displayed in many cities, including Tallahassee, Florida, Los Angeles, Cincinnati, Chicago, West Palm Beach. It will be, pieces of the exhibit will be at the Smithsonian American History Museum in D.C., where over 3 million people will see the exhibit. We're honored to have the exhibit here in Sacramento, in the state's capital. We are honored to recognize Bernard and Shirley Kinsey for their outstanding contributions, not just to the citizens of California, but to this whole state. Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome to the State Senate.
I present this now to Bernard and Shirley Kinsey and commend you for your dedication to preserving the rich cultural and historical heritage of the African American community for future generations, and we express our sincere best wishes for continued success.
Once again, congratulations. Senator Price?
Yes, without objection, we'd like for the body to give Mr. Kinsey an opportunity to just address the Senate briefly.
Madam President, Senator Price, Senator Padillo, and Senator Wright, thank you so much, and thank all of you for your support. Come out this afternoon, 5:30 to 7:30 at the California Museum and get a glimpse of not just Black history, but American history. William Lydoff helped found San Francisco. There were 26 of the 44 people that found Los Angeles were Black people. You follow me? So, I mean, we take this thing. Chicago was founded by a Black man, DuSable. You follow me? Matter of fact, the Indians said the first white man they saw in Chicago was a Black man. You follow me? And what we want to do, and what we've done over the past 3 years, is share this with literally millions of people. And we tell the story of the African-American experience before the Mayflower, all the way through civil rights. And what we are so proud and pleased of, that the state of Florida adopted the Kinsey Collection as the curriculum to teach Black history to 3.6 million kids in the state of Florida. Chicago Public Schools has adopted the Kinsey Collection to do the same thing. And we're going to be coming to California, particularly Southern California, so that we can begin to share this, because as you know, Los Angeles is a very heavily Latino, but 30% of Latinos are Black. You follow me? That speak Spanish. So there's an interest in this from all ways. Matter of fact, a Spanish-speaking Black man was the first one to go to Arizona and New Mexico and Baja, California. So all of these little tidbits are the things that we would like to share with you, and we want to thank you, Madam President, for this additional time. We know you're running a tight ship, and I like how you're running. So thanks so much. We'll see you at 5:30 at the California Museum. Take care.
Thank you so very much for that history lesson. Thank you. Senator DeSaulnier?
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to acknowledge that I have some brilliant young constituents in the gallery, and I'd like to have us all welcome them. We've got 4th, 5th, and 6th graders from the Concordia School in Concord, my hometown, and you probably all know that Concord means place of harmony, so you're always welcome. We could give them a warm welcome, I would appreciate it.
Welcome to the California State Senate. Okay, members, at this time we are going to recess the regular session and convene the 8th extraordinary session. The prayer and the pledge will be deemed complete. Without objection, Senate Bills 29, 31, and 34 will be given their second reading upon being reported from Committee on Appropriations. Senator Dutton, for what purpose do you rise?
I just have a question, a procedural question. I don't really necessarily have an objection with regards to this specific motion, but there's other bills, quite a few other bills that are also waiting to go through the process, and I'd just like to know what the schedule is and the intent is for those other bills.
Senator Steinberg, since this is a procedural question on the rules in the flow of work in the House, could you please address this question from Senator Dutton?
Thank you. I'm sorry I was engaged in conversation, but I think I know what Senator Dutton's question is here. The question is around the numbers of jobs-related bills that have been put forward by Senate Democrats and then, as I understand it, by Senate Republicans as well. What we did on the Democratic side is we introduced several of them in special session, and as evidenced by committee work today, 2 to 3 of them, maybe a few more, maybe up to 4 or 5, we would intend to try to move through the process with the special session. The issue with the remainder of the bills and the large number of bills introduced by Senate Republicans is that the special session itself we intend to close soon after the 22nd of February. And so what I proposed, I think we're on each other's calendar for later today, is that the leadership get together and see if we can begin discussing a bipartisan jobs package with a specific timeline, some which can get through this extraordinary session, some that maybe we can do on an urgency through the regular session. But the reason why there's a reluctance to refer all of the bills in the special session is because that session is going to close within probably a week to 10 days.
Okay. Well, just a lot of the bills have been proposed, actually, to a couple of Democrat authors as well. A lot of those bills have actually been heard in policy committees before. And so that was the reason for suggesting, if we're going to expedite the process on these three, is that we're going to be able to have the same kind of consideration for all the bills, both Democrat and Republican, that are still there, especially ones that have already been heard in policy committees in the past. So, and we can discuss that this afternoon. I appreciate that.
Members, without objection, the motion will be adopted. Introduction and first reading of bills will be deemed complete. Now, on consideration of the daily file in this special extraordinary session, we have items 1 and 3 that are eligible to be taken up at this time. File item 1, Senator Lowenthal, are you prepared to take up this item at this time? Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 27 by Senator Lowenthal, an act relating to housing.
Thank you, Madam President and members. In 2008, Congress passed and President Bush signed the Housing and Economic Recovery Act of 2008, which was H.R. 3221. Among the bill's numerous provisions is the establishment of the National Housing Trust Fund. Beginning this year, the federal government will distribute funds to states in the form of block grants to increase and preserve the supply of rental housing for extremely low and very low income households, and to increase home ownership for extremely low and very low income households. At least 90% of the funds must be used for rental housing. This bill designates the Housing and Community Development Department as the state agency responsible for administering the National Housing Trust funds and requires HCD to award the funds through its multifamily housing program of the MHP, except that the legislature may appropriate up to 10% of these funds to award under the Cal Home program. I urge your aye vote. This bill was heard and received unanimous support in the Policy Committee, Transportation and Housing from both parties. I urge your aye vote.
Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? Aye. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Aye. Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Aye. Cox? Aye. Denham? DeSaulnier? Aye. Ducheney? Aye. Dutton? Aye. Flores? Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Hollingsworth? Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Aye. Padilla? Aye. Papley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero?
Aye.
Aye. Runner? Aye. Semidian? Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? Walters? Aye. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Wyland? Aye. Yee? Yee, aye. Strickland, aye. Madam President, ayes 32, no 0.
Ayes 32, no 0. The bill is passed. File item 3, Senator Wolk, are you prepared to take this item up at this time? Okay, members, we will now recess the 8th extraordinary session and return to our regular session. Is there any other business to come before the House today? Senator Steinberg, the desk is clear.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to call for Democratic caucus immediately after the session. Relatively brief, I think. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday session on the call of the pro tem, and all likelihood no session tomorrow, but probability of Thursday. I would also, with the permission of the President here, adjourn in memory of a former colleague. Many of us, most of us, I think, served in the Assembly during the latter part of the 20th century and the first years here of the 21st century. We were shocked to learn of the untimely death this past weekend of Charmette Bonpua, who was the Chief of Staff to Speaker Herb Wesson and current City Council member Herb Wesson. Charmette, as she was known to all of us, passed away in Las Vegas Sunday morning after suffering an aneurysm on a vacation trip, and she was only 44 years old. And we all remember her, I think, those of us who worked with her. She was energetic, she was strategic, she was indefatigable, she just, and she loved Herb. And, you know, we all loved Herb too, still do. And during some very, very difficult years, the prior recession, Charmette was, you know, on the front line with Speaker Wesson and many of us, and was just a dedicated public servant and a good friend to many. She was born in the Philippines. She immigrated with her family to California in 1981. She's survived by her parents, her siblings, and their children. There are no funeral services yet arranged, but we'll certainly let you know when they are. But I talked to Speaker Wesson over the weekend, and of course he's rather broken up by the loss of not only the Chief of Staff for many, many years, but also a very dear and close friend of his. And so I just wanted to recognize Charmette's passing and give our deepest condolences to her family and to Speaker Wesson and his entire staff down in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Senator Steinberg, thank you for sharing with us this notice. And again, our deepest condolences go out to our colleague, Speaker Emeritus Herb Wesson. Senator Yee, for what purpose do you rise?
Just to add my words of condolences on the passing of Charmette. I first got to know Charmette when, right before I came into the Assembly, Speaker Wesson brought his staff along with Charmette to visit with me in San Francisco. And we went to one of the senior programs, Ken Kit, which is in the South Market area. And I would tell you that she became the pride and joy of the Filipino-American community. Filipino-American community always feel that they have not had the chance to enter into the halls of power here in the Capitol. But when they saw Charmette and the relationship that she had with the Speaker, they found that while they may not have a member, they had a voice and they had a presence, and they had it through Charmette. I think, like Senator Steinberg indicated, Charmette was a very passionate individual. She fought very, very hard for those things she's believed in, those things her boss believed in. But there was a kinder and softer side to her, and I think it's important that we remember all of Charmette, not only just because she was such a fierce, fierce competitor, but she also had a kindness that not too many people knew about, and she kind of kept that to herself. But many, many individuals benefited from that kindness, and I want to add my voice of condolences to her and her family and to the Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Yee, for your very eloquent observations. Members, the Senate will now stand in recess. Democratic caucus. Tomorrow is a check-in day and session upon call of the pro tem. The Senate now stands in recess.